Hello and welcome to Pandora Astrology's monthly horoscope for April of 2023. We are the astrologers of Pandora Astrology. I'm Jamie Kale Miller. I'm in Berkeley, California.
And I'm Julia Mijas, and I'm in San Francisco, California.
Okay, let's take a look at what's happening in April. And by the way, Gemini, your birthday is coming soon. If you haven't scheduled your yearly birthday reading yet, there is still time to do it before your birthday, which is the most powerful time to do it. This lets you ritualize your personal New Year's moment and jump into your year empowered to make it the best one ever. It also comes with fantastic affirmations you can use all year to create your best life. You'll find a link for it in the description below. Let's start with Ceres, which is retrograde right now. Here she is sitting in your fourth house, retrograde in Virgo. Now, Ceres went retrograde last month in Libra and has backed up into Virgo, which is your fourth house, and is going to go on being retrograde until early May. So this is a financial rebalancing period, but you're in a phase of it now with Ceres having moved into Virgo, where you might really be getting into the details. You might really even be a little lost in the weeds here and there. When Ceres goes retrograde, because Ceres is about the things that support us in the physical world, our relationship with our bodies, our health, our eating, and our money and finances, when Ceres goes retrograde, we can find that these things get really tangled up, they go awry, and problems crop up that make us have to go back to the drawing board financially and fix those problems. And so that this is happening in tax month is probably part and parcel of the challenges. This series is sitting in your fourth house, which is about home and family, domestic life, heritage, and roots. And so your family finances, your finances around your home, potentially even your mortgage, your rent, other payments that you have to do around your home, or projects that need doing, like physical projects that need doing, like, cleaning out the garage or fixing that, bathroom, spigot that needs fixing, or finally creating that built-in in the closet that you've wanted to have. These are the sorts of things that can crop up when Ceres is retrograde in your fourth house. So you may spend quite a bit of the month preoccupied with those sorts of things. Now, Juno is over here in Taurus in your 12th house. Juno is about collaboration and partnership. She is the social maven, the social leader. She is the matchmaker and connector. She's very, very networky, and she's hanging out in your 12th house. Now, if you're married and Juno is in your 12th house, you might find that you want to spend time with your spouse alone, that you want to sort of hunker down and be sort of withdrawn with your spouse. Or you might even feel that you want to withdraw from your spouse and get some time that's just for you alone, so that you can maybe even think and feel into the state of your marriage presently. Now, if you're single, it's not like you don't feel Juno here in the 12th house, but if you're single and looking and you've been in a kind of a dating mode this month while Juno is passing along your 12th house, you might find yourself wanting to sort of decamp and retreat and regroup and think about your dating process in a more internal and introverted way, and not actually be so active with the dating. And that situation will change when Juno moves forward into your first house, which is going to happen on May 1st. So we'll talk about that in May's horoscope. Hey, Julia, what is the news of Mercury, Venus, and Mars this month for the Geminis of the world?
Yes, well, let's start with your ruling planet Gemini, which is the planet Mercury. It is a very social planet, just like you. And it's a planet that represents your mind and communication, all of the things that you're very focused on in life. So the first couple of days of the month are the most social days, probably, because Mercury starts the month in the 11th house, the house of friends. So Mercury loves connecting and networking and calling up people and communicating with not just their friends, but the greater social circles they're a part of, which are all ruled by the 11th. But by April 3rd, Mercury enters the 12th. And that means that Mercury might want to withdraw a little bit more from social activity because the 12th is a house of isolation. Now, Mercury, and which represents your mind, your mind might become a lot more ethereal for the rest of the month. You might be drawn to more ethereal topics, more fantasy, more spiritual, metaphysical types of things. Maybe you just like to hang out at home and read a fantasy book, for example. Now, by April 21st, Mercury is going to go retrograde in this house, and this is going to go on till about mid-May. So in the 12th house, Mercury retrograde, this is going to be a very, very important time for you to be very careful of how you communicate with other people, because the 12th house is known as a house of self-undoing. So and Mercury retrograde times can be times of having to review or sort of almost take back some of the things that you may have said. So be a little extra careful with how you communicate with others during this Mercury retrograde cycle that you're really going to feel sort of the last third of the month, maybe even a few days before, as Mercury enters the shadow period. But it can also be a time of review in terms of your more spiritual life, your more service-oriented life too. Maybe you start getting recurrent dreams or something during this cycle, which can be kind of interesting and maybe fruitful for a lot of self-discovery too. Now, Venus, your relationship planet, all of our relationship planet, starts the month in the 12th house as well. So again, there's some 12th housey energy between Mercury and Venus, the social planets, fairly early on in the month. And Venus in the 12th house, because she not only represents your relationship, but wherever we have her is where we find some pleasure. She might enjoy retreats this month. This could be a very good month. For example, especially the first 10 days when she's in the 12th house, to just kind of unplug and get away from it all. Maybe that means going on a hike where you're just out in the wilderness and there's no one else around you. Or maybe there's some other retreat. The 12th is a house of healing. So if there's any type of healing where you just sort of need to break away from society and do it, that can be wonderful. Then by April 10th, Venus is going to go into your sign, Gemini, and that is your first house of self. So after the 10th, this is going to be a time where you're going to be a little less into retreating and a little bit more in just kind of showing the world how sort of good looking and well styled you are, because you're really going to be embodying Venus for the rest of the month. It's a wonderful transit for getting your hair done, going shopping for a new outfit, and just coming across as more charming to other people. Also a good transit for dating too. Now, Mars, the feisty planet, a little bit more challenging than the other two planets, I would say, is spending the whole month in your second house. This is a house of money and possessions. So you could feel very driven by money, also maybe a little frustrated by money, or maybe even impulsive with your money with Mars in the second all month. The second house has more of a meaning than just the material side of life, like money and possessions. It also represents values. So you can feel very either threatened or defensive of your own values during this transit. Any types of conflict you run into this month might be over the values that are dearest to you. But it can be a good time for just putting your energy towards maybe increasing your paycheck more, or, just kind of just focus on sort of growing your resources this month. But, with those caveats that I mentioned.
Hi, Jamie here. Before we continue, I just want to take a quick moment to thank you for watching this video. And if you're enjoying this content, please consider becoming a patron on Patreon. Our lowest tier starts at just $5 a month and gives you early access to these monthly horoscope readings. Your support helps keep this content free. The link can be found in the description box below. Thanks again, and let's get back to the video. Well, I want to talk about a couple of moons that are happening this month, starting on April 5th with the full moon in Libra. And here it is, right here in your 5th house. And we're calling this moon Make Every Action Wholesome. It involves an opposition to 3 planets that are placed in fire signs. So there's a lot of activity in this moon, despite that it's in Libra. Libra is usually more cerebral and more diplomatic, but this moon is actually going to be fairly boisterous because of Jupiter and the sun's involvement here opposite that moon. And I think it's going to be really important to make every action wholesome under this moon. You can find out more about it by checking the video that we made about it on our forecast page on our site, Pandora Astrology. But I think what we really need to notice is the fact that this moon lands in your 5th house. The 5th house is a house of creation, recreation, and procreation. In other words, fun, pleasure, and play, creative process and product, and children, as well as playing like a child. So when the moon is full, it brings a lot of emotion to any house that it lands in. And this is going to really amp up your creativity. And it might also make you something of a party animal for the duration. And so socializing and attending parties during this moon is a pretty good thing to do, especially because of the way that Sun, Chiron, and Jupiter land in your 11th house. And also, if you have any creative endeavors, this is really an occasion to infuse them with a lot of passion, a lot of emotion, to really sort of amp them up in that way. So I really recommend that. Then the next thing I want to talk about is that the sun is going to change signs. So we have a seasonal change from Aries into Taurus, and here it is. On April 20th, the sun moves over into Taurus, where it will be for 30 days, just as usual. And you can notice that over the course of this horoscope, like early in the month, we saw that there's a big pile of planets here in your 11th house in Aries. And then as the month goes on, those planets all migrate over to the 12th house, which is where you have Taurus. And so the month begins with this very, very social energy and finishes with a much more introverted and like retreating kind of an energy, which Julia talked about as well with Mercury and Venus in there, that 12th house. So the sun is continuing this theme. Wherever the sun goes, we want to shine the light of our conscious attention, because attention is like sunlight. Wherever you put it, things can thrive and grow. And that's a wonderful thing. But this sun going into the 12th house for you means that you're going to pull inward. And where you need to shine the light of attention is into the corners of your own psychological depths. And most particularly, if you can really look into the things, shall we say, like the things behind the things that you think and feel. This is just a really good time to shine the light of consciousness on your own unconscious. So to really bring a candle into some of those dark and mysterious places. It's also literally a good time for spiritual retreats and contemplation in all of its forms. Spending time in nature is a really good thing to do. And meditation retreats would also be very advantaged by this 30-day time frame from April 20th. Now, the last thing I want to tell you about is the other moon of this month, which happens the day before the seasonal change. And it happens right here at the end of Aries in your 11th house. And this isn't just a new moon, it's an eclipse. It's a solar eclipse, and it is a total solar eclipse. We're calling this one volcanic actions tempered by sympathy. There's a great deal of concentrating of forceful, driven energies during this particular eclipse, along with some factors that will really give us pause to watch our actions and consider how those actions might have repercussions deep into the future of this life and even potentially future lives. So I really recommend that you check the video about it, which is on our forecast page at our website, pandoraastrology.com. But when applying this to your own house structure and seeing that this lands in your 11th house, I would say that you should really, really watch out for embarrassing behaviors that you might do in public, in your social groups, maybe online, maybe, you might be found being a total douche or a jerk online, in public, or in large group situations. And so keeping an eye on your actions and really asking yourself what is driving them is so important to do when an eclipse like this appears in your very, very social 11th house.
If you love Pandora Astrology's free and informative horoscopes, please do hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and share our horoscopes with your friends.
We make these horoscopes for you for free, and if you appreciate it, supporting us on Patreon is the best way to show it. Share our horoscopes with your friends too. Have a beautiful April, and until next time, we'll see you around the cosmos.
Bye-bye.